Shing! Whop. You know what I just did? I just cut his head off. What do we use to cut people's heads off in D&D?
He wants me to say Vorpal Sword.
The Vorpal Sword! Everyone's favorite weapon. Everyone's favorite D&D weapon. They work real well. If you manage to find one, whew, you're a lucky dog.
50,000 gold pieces.
50,000 gold pieces.
In the first edition DMs.
Which personally I think is underselling it a little bit. I think so too. Even including how completely and wildly and violently inconsistent the prices are in the different AD&D manuals. Still probably not quite enough. I also, side note, think that the Sword of Sharpness is a better weapon than the Vorpal Sword.
I would have to agree.
Yeah. Sword of Sharpness, you don't need as high of a roll to lop something off of somebody. And if I'm fighting a red dragon, all I care about is getting something off of it. It doesn't have to be the head.
But you have used a Vorpal Sword. And
me, Alexander.
His character, one of his characters in my campaign, has used a Vorpal Sword to great effect.
Great effect.
And you were beside yourself.
That was the single coolest day I have ever spent playing D&D.
You ended up rolling it.
Yeah,
so.
Killed 2 dragons. I should have died. All rights should have died. But it was a pretty cool fight. That was a good time.
But you only survived because of
the Vorpal Sword. So, to kick things off, what we're going to do is really just talk about what the
Vorpal Sword,
Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Dungeon Master's Guide, first edition, has to say about the Vorpal Sword, because this is, to my awareness, the first time it's ever mentioned in D&D in any capacity.
You know, I'm not sure. It may have been mentioned in
the
Greyhawk. It may have been mentioned in Greyhawk or the box set. I don't remember. I'm going to have to look that up.
If you know whether or not, let us know down below, because I'm actually not sure.
Or I'll mention it in the video after I take a look after we're done filming.
Yeah, right here. But the Vorpal weapon, I'm just going to read it. Sword, Vorpal weapon, comma, is similar but superior to a Sword of Sharpness. A Vorpal weapon is +3 to hit and for damage bonus. When a score on the to-hit die, as shown below, is made, it will sever the neck/head of its opponent. Opponent is, and then it has, listed below, normal/armored, larger than man-sized, and solid metal or stone. These are the 3 categories. Respectively, the modified score to sever is 20 to 23.
For a normal armored opponent.
21 to 23 for a larger than man-sized opponent, and 22 to 23 for solid metal or stone opponent. Then below that, there is an asterisk that says, considers only the sword's bonus of +3. Now, this is kind of ambiguously written, and we know that there is some discussion about what the exact meaning of this is. Whether or not, because you could read it as normal or armored, you have to get a 17 to behead it, or you could not and treat it still as only rolling a natural 20. When we play, have treated it as you have to roll a natural 20 to cut the head off of whatever it is you're fighting.
Yeah, because
seems fair. 5%
yeah,
chance.
but I mean, I know a lot of people who do it a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you roll a 20 and it cuts the head off of whatever you're fighting, that's the way we do it.
Darn good weapon.
That's a heck of a weapon.
And aside from that, it's a +3 sword. And a +3 sword is great when you're fighting pretty much anything. You're set to go versus a lot of stuff with a sword that powerful.
But the question at hand.
Where
did the Vorpal Sword come from? That's the big question.
And that, my friends, is what we will be discussing.
And we're not talking about where did it come from in D&D. I will take a quick look at that and I'll put something down below, like I said, to let you know when it first appeared in D&D, if I can figure that out.
Yes.
But where did the idea of the Vorpal weapon come from, and in particular the name of the Vorpal weapon? And I actually think this is a pretty cool backstory.
Yeah.
Back when I was a kid, one of the first poems that we had to learn in grade school was one by Lewis Carroll called The Jabberwocky, or Jabberwocky. It is a nonsense poem that uses nonsense words all the way through it. It's not very long. And I'm just going to read it to you really quickly, and you will see exactly where Vorpal came from. And I'm sure that it was probably Gary Gygax who took it from Jabberwocky and dropped it into D&D.
So welcome to a new segment of the Old Warlock called Poetry with James.
Hey, we ought to do that one regularly.
Yeah,
I think that's a really good idea.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, Jabberwocky by Lewis Carroll, and this was written in 1850...
1850... I have it pulled up.
I want to say it's 1854, 1858.
Something like that.
So this Bad Larry goes back quite a ways.
1855.
I was kind of like halfway.
Yeah, you're like
right.
right
A little
there.
on either side.
Yeah.
So 1855, The Jabberwocky, or Jabberwocky, by Lewis Carroll. Poetry with Jim. 'Twas brillig and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves and the momraths outgrabe. Beware the Jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the Jubjub bird, and shun the frumious Bandersnatch.
Hey, Bandersnatch. That's a movie.
Here's the key. He took his Vorpal sword in hand, long time the manxome foe he sought, so rested he by the tum-tum tree, and stood a while in thought. And as in uffish thought he stood, the Jabberwock with eyes of flame came whiffling through the tulgey wood, and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through, the Vorpal blade went snicker-snack. He left it dead, and with its head he went galumphing back. And hast thou slain the Jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy. O frabjous day, callooh callay, he chortled in his joy. 'Twas brillig and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves and the momraths outgrabe. So,
Wow.
pretty straightforward here that Gary Gygax was a fan of Lewis Carroll's poetry.
Yeah.
And the Vorpal blade went snicker-snack. He left it dead, and with its head he went galumphing back.
So he lopped its head off. Someone rolled a natural 20 or a 17 to 20, depending on your interpretation.
Depending on how you interpret the rules.
Yeah.
But I really find this interesting that something that was written in the 1850s had a direct impact on Dungeons and Dragons over 100 years later.
Yeah.
And it still plays a role today because the Vorpal Sword has not disappeared. It is
No, it's still a weapon.
It is still out there.
I don't actually know how it's changed. If it has changed at all in 5th edition versus the earlier versions. I don't know.
No, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I know that it's still around, but
Yeah.
so if you know the differences, let us know.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that Lewis Carroll would be completely flabbergasted to
Yeah.
know how his Vorpal sword from the Jabberwock is
now
currently
something
being
that
used.
we are talking about in our basement.
So,
But yeah, it's a great weapon. It has a cool history. And it just goes to show, once again, how many places Gary Gygax at all took their inspiration from for the creation of the game. And I think that's very, very cool. That this is,
I think so too.
It's kind of it's a niche thing. I had never heard of, because, you know, we don't really do stuff like this in public school anymore. I had never had any experience with this poem. I never even heard of it before it was brought up in this context. So,
well, we just did a video a little while ago about the influence of some earlier authors on the creation of D&D, and we're kind of doing a little series here about this kind of thing, where ideas came from originally in D&D or before D&D, and then were integrated into D&D. So yeah, be on the lookout for more of these.
yeah.
And if you don't like them, you know not to check them out.
Are we going to be wearing the same shirts in those videos? We may or may not. There's
be
really
willing
no way to tell.
I'd be willing to bet that we are. We had somebody comment. We have this ongoing thing about wearing the same shirts in videos. We had somebody say you need to just wear the same shirt all the time.
I thought about it. I almost did wear the same shirt again for a third time.
Well, somebody wanted you to bring your McLaren shirt back and,
Oh, that's
put
true.
that and keep
It's
that
true.
on. But anyway.
Go McLaren.
Anyway,
Anyway,
just thought you'd find this interesting. Lewis Carroll, 1855.
yes, around 1855.
Jabberwocky, a nonsense poem that was taken, where parts of it were taken and placed directly into Dungeons and Dragons.
Go Vorpal Sword. Go get one for yourself, for your character. See if you can hunt one down. They're pretty cool weapons.
They are.
They are.
I'm Jim.
I'm Alex.
Keep your sword on. Keep your Vorpal sword on. Free. See what I did there?
Bye.
Bye-bye.